I am so glad and want to warmly welcome everybody who made it live and those of you who are watching this webinar about the transforming lives as a replay. Thank you for making the time. I want to begin with a poem, and after that, I will speak a little bit more about why it's so important to learn those skills and capacities through the Transforming Lives training, and I'll bring in some story, as well as towards the end, I give you a gift of a skill that you can use already with your clients, with your groups, or just with yourself. So let's dive in. And this is my all-time favorite poem that I find befits really transforming lives and the work we're doing in this world. May I be a guard for those who need protection, a guide for those on the path, a boat, a raft, a bridge for those who wish to cross the flood. May I be a lamp in the darkness, a resting place for the weary, a healing medicine for all who are sick, a vase of plenty, a tree of miracles, and for the boundless multitudes of living beings, may I bring sustenance and awakening, enduring like the earth and sky, until all beings are freed from suffering, until all beings are awakened. And it's from Shantideva. And I imagine that's what we're here for, right? That's what you're here for. And that's what being that bridge from suffering to liberation, from the deepest pains into healing. And I feel at this incredible crossroad at this time, where we literally, as a whole of humanity, stand on the edge in our world, it is so important that we have capable and skilled guides, healers, therapists, because we are really in unprecedented times. And as you may have noticed already, that no matter in which capacity you're working, you come across more and more people who speak about their trauma or are having suddenly an awakening experience, even people who have never read a spiritual book. And trauma, of course, now has come more to the forefront, and I think it's absolutely important because we have massive, personal and collective trauma to deal with. But I also noticed that because we're on the edge, the intensity is rising, and it's so extreme, and it will get more. You be assured of that. And therefore, it's like the waves are so high that we need skilled, capable swimmers in the sea of samsara, and those who have a solid boat to fish people out, to show the way forward, to be a lighthouse in this world. And when I talk about lighthouse, I don't mean this, those of you who know me, I don't mean the kind of airy-fairy spirituality that endorses spiritual bypassing. I really mean something that's so substantial, where you're so present and so connected and in your heart that you can navigate through even the most difficult times. Hello, little one. There's a baby here. It's very sweet to have you in the group. You're a lucky one to have a mommy like that. And So to be able to navigate through pretty much anything, through the heights and the lows, and be able to take your seat fully in who you are. I have to keep smiling because this little one here on the screen is just so adorable. So that we literally leave a better planet for these children behind. I know you have your own motivation and your own calling for doing this work of, I call it the labor of love. But I also think that it is to benefit those that come after us, as well as those who have come before us. So you have an incredible mission on this planet, and I really want to give you the very best. That means to help you build a tremendous capacity, as well as gain the most refined skills that you can then use with your clients, with your groups, in your spiritual work or in your healing work, and be able to literally guide people in such a way that you feel, yes, this feels just right. I'm aligned, I'm here, and I have the tools I need, and I'm capable. So for me, it was to be, I've led this Transforming Lives training often live, and both in the UK and the US. And usually people come who already are working with people. And I have to say, it was absolutely every time amazing to teach it live. And this is the first round we're doing online. But I set it up in a way that is easy digestible. And we mix it in with a lot of practice, with direct experience. There is going to be theory, there's going to be skill building, and there's going to be capacity building. And there's also going to be interaction with others. So you practice together. And it's set up in a way that I feel is really, really healthy and whole online. And it makes it more easy to attend from many different time zones. And what I found, in my 30 years now that I work with people, both as a therapist, a psychologist, and as a spiritual teacher, I found that I needed everything. All the skills that I learned in my trainings, and believe me, I train so much. I have so many degrees. I can plaster most of the wall with it. It's so many. If you look at my website, it's just too much. You get overwhelmed with all the degrees and certifications. I come from Germany originally, and we have a tendency to train really a lot. But I also felt in my heart that it is a tremendous responsibility to guide someone, to touch someone's soul, to touch someone's wounds and help them through. I felt like I couldn't just do this half-baked. And then I kept having, I kept feeling, okay, now I put this all together from my trainings. And I had really superb skills. But I also noticed that 40 years of my spiritual practice was absolutely essential. The spiritual side is like the resource, the capacity of being present, of being in my heart, of being connected to the source, that allowed me to guide people in a way that it became more and more straight to the core, if a person, of course, was open to that. but it also allowed me to guide people who come from different cultures, different backgrounds, and with different experiences and different ages. So often in my groups, I have people from all around the world, as well as people from 22 to 80. I think my oldest one was 79. And I realized, and it's men and women, and I realized that the more I focused on the essence and use the tools just in the right moment, the more I was able to completely organically work with each individual differently at this end to adjust. It's like a concert almost with a group. So at some point, everybody is on board and in a harmony, in a ship that everyone feels safe in. And I felt like that. I realized, when I was starting the Transforming Lives, that it's so important to have the skills as well as the capacity, as I said before. But I saw there were elements that are crucial, and you will learn that in the Transforming Lives training. So one is I call it the 6 elements, that we have to, at this time, we have to address people emotionally, mentally, somatically, energetically, and spiritually. We need all the elements. We can't leave any out. Otherwise, you're just a bit lopsided then. You might work somatic, but you don't attend to the emotional body. Or you work more mental, but the person never feels quite gotten, because you leave out a whole other, we're complex beings, and so when you learn how to graciously navigate with all those elements, it's like you have a richness that you can meet a person on many levels. And the other 3 keys that I find are so crucial that I keep repeating is the presence, very important to cultivate, but without presence, sometimes it can leave you really detached. You might be completely spacious and there's nothing going on in your mind when you sit with somebody. At the same time, the heart isn't quite there. The love isn't quite there. You might be able to witness and be mindful, but there's no warmth. So we need the other piece, which is the heart. And that's not always so easy, to open that heart, even when you encounter tremendous suffering in this world, or with a person or in a group. How do you let yourself really fully feel that without losing your seat, or without drowning with the other person too? Not so easy either. And then the third element the key that I find, like the capacity to really connect, to align yourself with the source and with yourself, and then with the people that you're serving. So those elements, they have to come into play. And of course, we need trauma skills. Pretty much at this point, everybody who's trying to help people needs some trauma skills, because it's just appearing left and right if you have seen it. And we also need the skill of how do we support somebody when they are in a total awakening experience, because it can happen at any moment, at any time. And I experience often people have that in my presence, and I have to be able to distinguish, is it trauma? Is that intensity are they able to actually navigate through that intensity? What do they need if it is the awakening experience? there's a fine distinction to recognize, and quite a different way how to guide people through. So we will all address those pieces, and we'll practice that, and we learn that. And it doesn't matter where you are already, like you may have experience in one arena, and then maybe you learn more in the other arena. So that in the end, you can put this all together and you really are a solid ship. You have substance with yourself. You have, like I said before, you have capacity and tremendous skill. That pretty much, I hope afterwards, you're able to actually guide all sorts of people that come to you. But it also would increase, what happened to me is like it increased, there's so many people started coming to me. I never advertised for my service as a therapist. People just found me through word of mouth. And that doesn't happen unless people feel like it's really helping them. And so I have, since years now, long waiting lists for people to come in. And I imagine that when you train in this, you too will have far greater reach to help far more people. And that's actually my inspiration to teach this training to those who are dedicated to give the best, but also those of you who are stepping more on the front lines to help many, many more people. Because right now, this is what we need. And this is also for our planet. And I'm reminded that there was one person that came to me. It was many years ago. She had severe depression, and she was a high executive manager in a top position, earned a fortune. She was only 28. She should be happy, right? She had a spiritual practice, a little bit, some mindfulness. Anyway, she came to me and she sat there completely dead. And she said, I feel like this since years. I cannot tell anybody because nobody understands the weird place I'm in. I have walked from therapist to psychiatrist to psychologist. I've gone to doctors. She said, I'm at my wit's end. I don't know what to do anymore. I can watch, I can look out the window and I can sit there like a zombie. I don't feel nothing. Can you imagine how this must be for that person? It was dreadful. And so what I did not know what to do, but I was trained, of course, with depression and the classic way, and sometimes that's really important to know. But with her, I knew that the classic way would do no good. She'd done all that. And so what I did, I applied all this, what I'm also training you in the Transforming Lives, is I sat very still. I became very, very present. And then I connected with the source, but I also connected deeply with her by letting my heart go right into the place where she was sitting. And right into her heart, that her flame that had gone, her life flame that had gone out almost. It was just a tiny little spark left. You know those people when they're walking around with these dead eyes. You've seen it in our world. And so I just tracked, of course. And then at some point, and she was talking and talking, and I just was tuning to her little tiny little spark inside. And suddenly I find myself saying something completely out of the blue. It had no context. to the content, what she was speaking. I spoke about blackberries. I said to her, you know, recently I went with my daughter to pick blackberries. It was so wonderful to eat them. Have you ever tried them? And she looked at me and suddenly she burst into tears. She started sobbing literally for a whole 10 minutes. And she said, I don't know how you knew, but this was the only time in my life that I felt happy. This was the only moment when I was picking blackberries with my father that I had some peace, that I felt happy as a child. And I never forget this moment because it's the only moment that I was feeling a little bit of love, and I miss it so much. And that was the way into complete connection. And that was the moment I could, that's the moment when that connection happened, and that depth of seeing and being, she needed to be seen. She needed to be more than just heard. She needed to be felt in her being. In that moment, I was able to help her through all what we need to undo and to get more in touch with her feelings and all the other things. But it was that place that needed to be touched again. And that's what turned her whole life. And of course, we had to do deep work. But after a year, this girl was so happy that she quit her job. She started to become a midwife, and she met her wonderful partner and had a child as well. She's still sometimes in contact with me and writes me, you know, thank you for saving my life. And these are the moments I feel they are so, they tell you, probably experience that also. Yes, this is what actually is so needed and fills your heart too. There was also another person who came to me who said, you know, was a guy, and he was so fed up with the spiritual scene. I have a lot of people that I work with who are therapists or teachers themselves, who guide people. And he said, like, I can't stand this word anymore. That people come to me and say, when I don't feel well, they say, oh, you'll be okay. You just think positive, and you just need to do this or that. And he said, you know, we keep trying to, people try to fix me when I'm also in a funky mood. Everybody has that at times, no matter how advanced you are, no matter how awake you are. You have times where you just, your ship goes like boom and you're out. Yeah. And I said to him, you know, the sentence that we often use, you'll be okay. Or we'll try to fix the other person, is usually we missed the mark. We missed the mark so much that when somebody says that to you in the end, you probably feel like they don't get me. And what all people want is, please get me, please hear me, see me, meet me where I am. That's the longing for everyone. In the deepest way, that's what, and first then can you go anywhere with someone. But if you don't meet them, really? So the other way to say, I simply said, I didn't say, I understand that you're hurting. That also is useless to say. It's nice, but if you don't really, we don't know, it's always the premise. You don't know where the other person is really and what they're really experiencing. And then it's a different experience than you think you understand. So the easiest way is always to just acknowledge and say, hey, I get you in pain. That's simple. But if you just say the words, it's okay to say that. It's still, you're not getting the person. But if you say it with your heart in it, it's like, wow, there's a felt experience. I get you're in pain. It's you emanate a field where the person suddenly feels like, whoa, you just really just get me. And this is something you do not learn overnight. It's something that you train in. And for that, yeah, I think we just need a lot of support. But also what it does, for me at least, over those years, it just makes me feel more connected also when I work in that way. And then there is not so much fear anymore of meeting suffering or meeting bliss. It's like you can ride all waves and it becomes actually fun. It's a beautiful thing to work with people in that way. And so I want to invite us, before I talk any longer, because I also want you to have an opportunity to ask questions. To just for a moment, and some of you who are here know me, so you may know this, but to invite you to just, a little skill that you can apply already. And so for a moment, just look around in your room and just notice what feels safe in your room. One object. Let your eyes rest on that. And notice what you experience when you connect to that safe place. And take a breath and then take the next step. Notice that the chair you're sitting on, or the couch or the floor, holds you from underneath. And if you like, let your weight drop in. Give your weight down. Just the sense of you being held. So notice what happens in your body and emotionally when you just, that simple piece. And often what happens is when we encounter people or ourselves, that most people are pretty ungrounded, pretty spaced out, and it does not help to say to a person, well, just relax. Because what we need is safety. The survival brain only will turn off when there is a concrete thing we can feel safe in, or can be feel held. It's like a chair or a picture. And first then a person actually, you can work with them, but this grounding is often forgotten. And even when we do spiritual practice or work with clients, we feel often ungrounded, disassociated. And so this is something to counter it. And then the next piece is what you can do, make a fist with your hand. A really strong, hard fist. And then slow, and we do this really slow, so you can really pay attention what happens. It's like the fist, you're holding all your tension in it, like really strong. Like you may think you have no tension, but we all do have it. So we're just externalizing it. And then you take your other hand and you put your other hand underneath very slowly, not fast, do it really slow. And begin to notice what happens with the fist. And then you can also drop the holding hand on your lap, so you're not having anything to hold. So you feel your lap is holding it. And notice what happens naturally with your fist. What occurs for you? Notice your breath. What happens there? We're going through a safety piece in the holding. And breathe into that. And then again, you look at your safe object outside. And you notice how the chair holds you. And become aware of how you're feeling now. When anybody wants to say something, you can just unmute yourself. These are very simple things, but they do have an effect. And I'm just curious, anybody had a moment of respite or...
Hi, Nicola. I'm sitting in this coffee shop and I'm almost crying in my seat with all these people around me. That was really profound. Yeah, I felt my body completely drop and how much I've been holding in. Yeah, so thank you for that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you, Rachel. Yeah, you felt it. Yeah, beautiful. Anyone else?
I can go. I felt a lovely wave of compassion for myself that arose. Felt really, really nice.
Beautiful, beautiful, Lily. And your little one is so wonderful to have there. Thank you. So I just I want to actually encourage you to start using this very simple tool for yourself, or when you start working with people or helping people to come more into groundedness, because it does not work most of the time. It does not work to tell people feel your body. Most people, no matter how advanced they are, they're not feeling comfortable to connect with their bodies, to land there. And if we don't land in the body, then we're more spaced out and more disassociated. So there's a whole range of problems. But also there is another thing: the soul, for many people, doesn't want to quite land on planet Earth. It's a deeper disconnect and separation there. And for many people, I first need actually their soul to land. And that means like the body needs to feel like it's a haven, it's safe. That's why we use first something outside for people to just not immediately guide into the body, but something outside in our environment that feels safe. So this has multiple effects, these little things. And of course, in the training, you will get much, much more. This is just a tiny little piece to give those who listen to the replay, and those of you who are here, further a little skill you can use and apply. So thank you. And I actually want to, before I invite everyone to ask questions who are here, I also want to say I'm going to turn off the recording when you come on with the questions. And for those who are listening to the replay, I want to thank you for taking the time, and so looking forward to meet you hopefully in the training. And I am really happy that you are here and doing this labor of love in the world in whatever capacity you're fulfilling it. Thank you.
transforming lives training that I took is so rich. It's hard to explain it succinctly, but I'm going to try. But I'm not going to do it justice because it has impacted me personally and as a therapist. So my background is as a psychotherapist for nearly 30 years now. And I trained initially in transpersonal therapy and then in attachment focused and in body and in sensory motor psychotherapy as well. And then I came one day across Nicola, and it just my personal meeting with her transformed my life. So I came to the training having met her more as a spirit guide and as somebody who I had done some one-on-one sessions with. And even though I had done a lot of transpersonal work, there was something of her attunement to me as a client with my own trauma that shifted something so profoundly, because I was not only met in my trauma, I was met deep in my soul. She saw beyond what I was telling her. She was able to work with what had happened to me and at the same time see a far greater vision of who I was. And in that, it was that the healing really happened. And I not only healed some things that had happened to me, but also awoke far more deeply. And what this has meant is that in my life today, when I hit my own kind of personal, dramas, difficulties, of which I've had one quite recently, I know the map back to myself. She teaches in this training a map to get back to a deeper connection to me and to yourself, whether you're working as a therapist or as a doctor or as a healer. On those days where you go, oh my God, I'm not having a good day. Life is not treating me well, but I've got to sit in front of this client and I've got to be with them. I know how to get back there. So that's kind of a really key thing that comes from the training. The next really is about an attunement to whoever you're with, whether you're in a group or one-on-one, an attunement that is so fine and connected, because what she teaches is how to become that kind of hollow bone, that presence where when you're with your client, something comes through you, you drop out of your head, all your knowledge, all your experience, yes, that's there in the background, but actually your connection is from this direct, the transmission comes through you to your client or to the group that you're with. I talk about clients, so forgive me for those who work with groups as well, or as healers, but it's not an airy-fairy concept. It is grounded, it's embodied. You are connected. It's like you get plugged in to a source in this training, and you know how to access that source and switch that light back on. And that may sound easy in one way, but it isn't. It takes a lot of practice, a lot of learning of skills, of experiencing it directly. And all of that is taught on this training. And if anybody is wavering about coming on it and wants to email me directly or have an off-screen conversation about it, I am more than happy to answer any questions. So yeah, so that's it. Sign up is all I can say. I regret it. And I have done a lot of trainings. I've been a constant student wanting to evolve, awake, and this has really helped me really profoundly. So that's sales spiel over.
Maggie, thank you so much. That is so kind of you.